All right, poison hemlock. Poison hemlock has been my kind of part of the program while Karen does the spotted lanternfly. I put together a board up here. I know a number of you are looking at it. I do have some, I pressed some Queen Anne's lace for comparison. Queen Anne's lace and poison hemlock and wild carrot are all in the same family. So you can go from pretty Queen Anne's lace to deadly poison hemlock. And everything about, here's the leaves of the poison hemlock plant, just to give you an idea. Everything about the poison hemlock plant is poisonous. So the leaves, the stems, the roots, the seeds, the flower heads, everything is potentially poisonous. Okay? There's just no way around it. That one is what we call the first year vegetative. They stay real low to the ground. By the second year, they've started to grow up. And these things can get massive. You can see the size of the stems. I mean, some of them are like this. And historically, people poison themselves. We know, what's his name? Socrates in 399 AD. No, 399 BC. Drank tea, which was his elected choice for poisoning. And he was doomed to die because he was, I don't know, ruining the youth of Athens at the time. And so he selected hemlock tea as his form of death. And it's ugly. You know, you might get a lot of nerve stuff at first and lose feelings, and that might not feel too bad, but it tends to affect your respiratory system. And then that's when it gets really, really ugly. This is one of the stems. I've taken all these pictures that are on here. These were all taken downtown at the Lake Shore Nature Center, which is often called the Dredge Site, which is, I don't know, over there by Gordon Park or someplace. We went there a couple years ago for some of you that were able to go. That dang stuff grows 10 feet tall, a lot bigger than that, 12 feet in some cases. You can see the size of the stem. Notice it's hollow. And notice on that previous picture, the purple, that is so characteristic of poison hemlock. You're not going to find that in Queen Anne's lace, and you aren't going to find big, hollow stems on Queen Anne's lace. But you'll find it on poison hemlock. Back in terms of poisoning, it was the tea. It was people thinking the seeds tasted like anise. So I guess some people knocked themselves off that way. Kids used to use the hollow stems as whistles and could get poisoned that way. So a lot of this has been sort of a terrible learning experience about, you know, what actually happens. But here, these are all the leaves. I mean, this place is just invaded with this stuff, invaded with it. Here's me trying to measure this piece here at about 42 inches. When it gets beyond about this high, the second year, that's when you got to spray it. If you let it go, that's another 36. This is ground level to show that. This is down the path with it growing in May. This is 2-3 feet high, both sides of the path. They mowed it. I don't know, the Park Service mowed it, and I'm going, God, I hope those guys are still alive.
Yeah,
look at that.
Like, would they adjust it?
Yeah, now in Madera, Ohio, is that it? Out of sight of Cincinnati, in 2021, I think it was, a man went into his backyard and was doing cleanup before the city came around and picked up all the garbage, the fall garbage, you know, leaves and whatever. And he went out into his backyard with a weed whip and I think a chainsaw. And he spent the day out there just having a ball, cutting things down. And never having a clue what he was cutting down. Dragged it out to the front to get taken away. Woke up about 4 o'clock the next morning and couldn't breathe. His wife took him into the hospital and they said, oh, we don't know what's going on. His lungs look like somebody who has COVID. And here it's 2021. He'd had all his COVID vaccines, hadn't had any reason to think he was around anybody that had COVID, but his lungs were looking pretty bad. And they said, well, we're going to put him on a ventilator. And he was on a ventilator for like a week or 10 days or some godforsaken number of days, which is terrible. The longer you're on a ventilator, the worse it is, and the harder it is to get you off of it. And he spent 119 days, I think, in the hospital recovering. But it was his wife who said to the doctor, and the wife and his son, who said, you know, could it be anything that you were cutting down in the yard or that he was cutting down in the yard? So they must have gone home and gotten a piece and taken it back, and the guys go, oh, yeah, that's like poison hemlock. And so they had a patient in respiratory failure is really what it was, with from being poisoned. It aerosolized. While he's out there weed whipping it, it's in the air and sucking it right in.
Did he live?
Yes, he did. He spent 119 days in the hospital. I think he was in, if I remember, he was either late 50s or early 60s. And he is lucky to be alive. Yes?
How do you get rid of it?
Spraying it, and the best thing to do is to, you can pull it out, okay? I personally, I wouldn't. I remember Glenda Lee asked me one day if she thought she had some of it in her yard, and yes, I think we decided that you did, even though I never did go see it. You can pull it out, especially when it's at that real low level, that ground level, that's the first year of it. But you have to be careful, because you've got to think about anything that is a mucous membrane in your body, nose, mouth, eyes. Anything that aerosolizes, which means it gets into the air as a vapor and gets in there, that's what can poison you. You don't have to drink tea like Socrates. You don't have to chew on the leaves. You don't have to blow on one of the stems to make a whistle. You don't have to eat the seed. You can get it, you know. So the way you do this, when we talked to the guys in Sheffield Lake a couple years ago, they were just totally freaked out. And we said, you need to protect yourself. And protection means personal protective gear or apparatus. And so it's gloves, long sleeves, long pants, masks, eye protection.